Hey everybody, welcome to Away Games, a Chicago Cubs and baseball podcast hosted by two comedians from Chicago who live in New York and love the Cubs. My name is Adam Mamawala. I'm one of them. I'm here with Kevin McCaffrey, another one of them. We are both wearing a lot of Cubs stuff right now. What are you wearing?
Well, thank you. What am I wearing? And maybe you'll be able to see this. We post some clips sometimes. You can follow us at Away Games Pod on Twitter and Instagram. That's where some of those video clips go. I'm wearing a Cubs hat, which I don't always do when we do this. And I'm wearing a shirt. I did put the shirt on purpose. My mom just got it for me. I can tell my mom to just stop buying me things. I live in a 2-bedroom apartment. I can tell her that. Yeah. I'm good on Cubs stuff for now, but she doesn't listen. And I'm glad she doesn't sometimes. This is, she just got this for like $1. I think it's a little shirt. It's 2016, says World Series champions, lovable winners, and it's cartoon versions of Jake Arrieta, Kris Bryant, and Anthony Rizzo. Will they be here next episode? Will any of them be on the team?
Who knows? That shirt has a 33% vaccination rate.
This shirt still is not able to relax protocol, unfortunately. God, this shirt's not even close to relaxing protocol. I think I should be wearing a mask right now. I think I do have...
Uh-oh. We got a bit coming up.
Since I do want to be safe, I won't do this for the whole time, but speaking of things my mom did get me when I told her not to.
So much.
Boom.
Wow. That's a great looking mask right there. It's worth the muffled audio to have this look right here.
Yeah, and this is a solid Cubs mask, and again, one that I believe my mom bought me, and I told her she didn't have to. But this is so this will keep me safe from my shirt, I guess, theoretically.
Looks great. Would you like to know what I'm wearing?
I do want to know what you're wearing because you are wearing. You're more ready for gameplay than I am.
All right, we got.
Yes, Kris Bryant.
That's not all.
A Kris Bryant jersey. Oh, and an Anthony Rizzo jersey underneath it. What a reveal. Look at this. Brizzo on a one-man Brizzo. That is very impressive. And they're two delightful different tones. We have a light gray tone on the one underneath. And
we have the weird alternate Cubs from a few years ago.
Yeah, and this uniform description is brought to you by Sherwin-Williams, I believe, right? Isn't that
not? I believe it's Benjamin Moore.
Is it Benjamin Moore? Shit. Yeah. Thank you.
See, but you know what? Actually, no. Pat does Benjamin Moore. We do Sherwin-Williams.
Mm-hmm.
We are not conforming to any of that.
No, we're our own thing. So I think you and I both had in our minds basically represent who we may be running out of time with. And there's stuff that's happened this week. Obviously, the Javi Baez walk-off against his good friend Amir Garrett was wonderful. But I mean, where do you want to start with it? I mean, we're talking about the clothes we're wearing and we're wearing them for reasons. So where are you at as we approach the trade deadline? Which, if you guys are I'm sure if you're listening to this, you're keeping track. It's July 30th at 4 p.m. That's the deadline. When all trades need to be made by. So how are you feeling?
I'm feeling sad and bittersweet and actually kind of appreciative of how great of a fan base we're a part of. I know there's a lot of shittiness sometimes, but when you see how the crowds have been at Wrigley this weekend, and it's one of those things where it's for all the talk of so many people go to Wrigley and they don't even care about the game, or it's just a frat party, people get it. Cubs fans get it right now. And I think we all kind of collectively realize that we could be nearing the end of what is unarguably the greatest period of Cubs baseball of our lifetimes. And it's hard to reckon with that. I'm getting texts from so many people this week. My, Red Sox fan friend Scott saying, Rizzo might be on the Red Sox. And all of these things where I'm just I don't even think that I can process it until it happens. If I really do next week have to see Rizzo in a Red Sox jersey and Bryant in a Mets jersey, I don't know. It's just, it's hard.
It feels like a video game. I'm trying to imagine those guys in different places at this point in their career feels surreal, and it should be surreal because there's no, obviously the team has not been quite the level of success you want them to be the last few years. But what I keep coming back to is the problem is not the guys we're talking about here. Typically, Rizzo's having the worst season he's had in, basically since he came into the league. But he's also heated up a lot in the last week. He's homered as we record this on Wednesday morning. Mm-hmm. Homered in 3 straight first innings. So we're that power is starting to heat up a little bit. Yeah, I don't. It's one thing to move on from players when they're done, when it's the end of their career, and it still can be a bummer. I mean, I did not enjoy Sammy Sosa being traded to the Orioles. You know what I mean? That was not fun for me. But it was different than this. I don't think, being in a place where you have team legends representing, as you say, undoubtedly the best era of modern Cubs baseball at the very least. Don't at us, Frank Chance Marks. The in terms of the modern era, this really is the undoubtedly the best. These guys are legends, but they're still in their prime. Even if you want to say on the later end of a prime or whatever, and that may not even be the case, and you could say that with, I think it's fair to maybe assume that with Rizzo, but with Bryant and Baez, I don't think so. It's a weird feeling to be a team that should be contending every year and to be considering getting rid of your best players who have so much time left and who all have publicly said they would like to stay here. So
right.
And I also want the Cubs to be the best team they can be going forward. So I don't know what that means, but it does feel conflicted and weird, and I'm just ready for whatever's going to happen.
Yeah, and look, as we record this, the trades that have happened are Jock Peterson, which we already talked about, and Andrew Chafin, which, God love him. One of the most likable Cubs in recent memory, especially for such a short tenure. And I am very happy with the return that the Cubs have gotten for Peterson and Chafin, and we'll talk a little bit about the Chafin return. And I am still very much pro trading Craig Kimbrell. I think it is asinine that he was on the mound on Monday night. I really do not understand the reasoning for that. I don't know if that's a Ross thing or that's a Hoyer not caring thing or what it is, but can you imagine if the most valuable trade chip probably in all of baseball right now gets drilled with a line drive or tweaks something, and then there is no chance for a possibly generational trade that you could pull off? Because again, this is the position that the Yankees were in when they traded Chapman to us 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And who knows if that's the return that Kimbrell is going to yield, but he is far and away the best closer in baseball right now.
Yeah,
and certainly
absolutely.
Of the couple of closers available. We're not going to compare him to Rodriguez in Pittsburgh.
No, in Pittsburgh, who, by the way, has been bad since the sticky stuff crackdown. His ERA is over 5 too. So
speaking of which, you do kind of look like Tommy Nance with that mask around. Your neck.
Yeah, with the mask around the neck. I know. It's I was going to take it off, but I'm like, no, I'm more or less fine with this. Yeah. All right. Where is Tommy Nance? Is he hurt now?
I don't know.
Did he unspin himself all the way back to independent ball? That would be a real bummer.
It is unclear, but I do not want to see Bryant, Rizzo, or Baez traded. That's where I'm at.
I think I'm exactly there too. And there have been obviously, it seems like there have been more rumors than you'd think about Anthony Rizzo being dealt, even though it seems like the Red Sox would be the only possible suitor. If you want to be romantic about Anthony Rizzo leaving the team, he should retire on. It's at least a contender. It's a good organization with a good fan base, and it's a team that drafted him. And he dealt with cancer while he was a member of the Red Sox and stuff. So I understand that a little bit, and they also need first base production. So I understand the rumor there. Baez, there's teams that want Baez that would. Javi Baez would be a wonderful upgrade for them. Kris Bryant is obviously the one being rumored the most. There was this specific rumor about Joey Bart being included in a possible San Francisco trade. Joey Bart is a highly rated catching prospect. He was the number 2 overall pick a couple years ago. Powerful guy, takes walks. He's been hitting well in AAA this year. He didn't do well his first time up in the majors, but who else didn't? Anthony Rizzo. So I think the consensus is that would be a great return for Kris Bryant. And my consensus, both emotionally, yes, but also I don't look, if the Ricketts and Hoyer are not going to make Kris Bryant a serious offer, to extend his career here in Chicago, then yeah, trade him. If they're not going to, I just am so against the idea that they should not. I'm so against the idea of not keeping Kris Bryant long term. That's why I don't want the trade here. Now, Kris Bryant even said, like, he was asked point blank by reporters yesterday, if you get traded, would you consider signing? Would you still leave the door open, like consider signing back with the Cubs? And he said, absolutely. I love Chicago. This is what Kris Bryant has said the whole time. He's loved Chicago. He's been very clear about the narrative, about him never accepting an extension, no matter what was offered, needing to reach free agency. He's been so candid and clear about how all that has been based on false reporting. And there's no reason to not trust Kris Bryant. Yes, players lie. Kris Bryant, to our knowledge, he's always been extremely upfront and candid about everything the whole time. So there's no world in which I'm going to trust, a Kaplan like shouting about something, or a Ricketts or a Hoyer or anyone. No reason to trust any of those people over Kris Bryant based on their histories. So, yeah, I mean, like, I just don't understand a world where you don't want everything that Kris Bryant is on your team going forward. So I am landing exactly where you are. Yeah. When the deadline passes, if those three guys are still on the Cubs, I'm holding out hope that the right extensions can be made here.
Yeah, I mean, do you remember the last player who really wanted to be on the Cubs and didn't get an offer? I believe his name was Nicholas Castellanos.
Yes, and yeah, he went to Cincinnati, exactly. And that's the thing. When we had people on Twitter today, someone was saying stuff about, like, oh yeah, well, Bryant turned down, he turned down the extension. He wants too much money, all this stuff. They said they offered him an extension.
Bryant turning down the extension is like the Hillary's emails of the Cubs.
It really is. It's just like, what information are we basing this on? And it's never anything. It's like Kaplan knew a guy or something. It's just like, and Kris Bryant outright said that never happened. And for some reason, people are still floating that out there. And by the way, making an offer is not equivalent to making a reasonable offer. Who would you trust here? The Cubs have not made a reasonable enough offer to anyone in their core here because they have not re-signed. So unless we are to believe that the Cub players, for some reason, are uniquely unreasonable about their value, there's no reason to trust this front office and ownership that has not locked down any of the core. You look at the deal that, okay, we've seen the deals that Hendricks signed and that David Bodie signed. These are the extensions we have. And Hendricks, decent. I mean, that's decent value, but I think it's a stretch to not say it's at least a little team friendly too. Like, certainly. There has not, and in the extension with Rizzo, when they took a gamble, when Rizzo was not a fully established star, that's been team friendly the whole time. So when we talk about extensions offered, Kris Bryant, to our knowledge, has never been offered an extension near his value. Let's try that. I'll say, let's offer what is nearly the value of the player and then see if they turn it down, because all these people want to be in Chicago.
Cue the drink break.
Cue the beverage. It's just coffee right now. It'll be something harder pretty soon. So I think
morale blend, or what do we got there?
It is. I will tell you, we plug some things. This is not the morale blend. This is my own personal brand from a Seattle based mom and pop. All
right. So feel like we're both riled up. Let's tell me about Mr. Prospect Man. Tell me about the fellas received in the Chafin trade.
So Andrew Chafin was dealt, and as Adam pointed out before, which I think is correct. Like, of the deals we've had, Jock Peterson for Bryce Ball, who's a big he's just a big boy playing first base and swinging a left-handed bat. And you can dream on that as an interesting offensive prospect. That's a fine return. And for Andrew Chafin, the most exciting thing, I think the return for Chafin was good, but what it really excites me about is a Kimbrell return. If this is what Chafin got, Kimbrell, I'm excited to see. So Greg Dykman, right fielder, he was a second-round pick a couple years ago out of LSU. He's 6'2", 190, hits lefty, throws righty. He cannot at all hit lefties so far. I'll start with the bad, but I'll tell you what Fangraphs has rating tools-wise for him. Good arm, a right field arm, above average, 55. And on the scouting scale, for some reason, I don't know why we don't just do 0 to 100, but they don't. They do 20 to 80. So 50 is league average. It's bizarre. We have numbers that work. What are we doing? So they have a 55 on his throwing. Raw power, 70.
Ooh.
Now, but he
That's
doesn't.
also on the 20 to 80 scale?
It is. It's on 20 to 80. So 70 out of 80 is very good. But his game power, they have projected at a dead average 50. And that is our friend Brian Smith at Cub Prospects. Sort of, he said he was getting Chris Coughlin vibes off of Dykman. So he's a guy.
What does that imply?
Sort of a shorter swing. He's not selling out for power here, even if it's in there. And he does get on base at a really good clip. So this is possibly, you could say, like, this is a guy you could see sort of a leadoff, not, even if he's not like as speedy as you would think of when you think of a leadoff guy. But this is a guy who should profile to high on base and a little bit of pop.
Does he have a unique ability to front somersault over Yadi Molina?
No, but I would love to see him try. I think everyone should try it on the way home. Just keep flipping over him like Mario over Goombas. So Dykman, and he's a guy who was depending on where you looked, he ranked at the back end of the top 10 of the A's prospect list, and now he's probably slotting in somewhere in the 10 to 15 range for the Cubs, it seems like. So we added that guy, and then we added a guy named Daniel Palencia, who's a pitcher. He's starting right now, but he's a right-handed pitcher, throws 97 to 99 on that fastball with a decent changeup. He's small. He's like 5'10". So he's starting right now, and they're doing that for a while, but sort of a lot of things about him scream relief at you. And he's probably towards the back end of the Cubs top 30, you would say. And he's further away. Dykman is 26, so he could be up. I mean, he could be up in September of this year. But that's the return for Chafin.
That's a pretty damn good return for Chafin. And granted, he has been a tremendous reliever this year. But, and no disrespect to him, I think it's just realistic to assume that his numbers are not going to stay that good. He's been exceptional this year.
Yeah, this is peak value you can trade a setup guy for, right? So, I mean, Andrew Chafin did us the solid of being the best he's ever been in his career. And he did have that funny line because he got smoked in his last appearance for the Cubs. And he told Ross, like, oh, one bad appearance and I'm traded, and he's...
How badly do you want to see Chafin in the retro, like, 70s A's uniform with that mustache? He looks like he's from the 70s anyway.
Yeah, they should make the footage grainier.
Absolutely.
All game footage of Chafin with the A's should be on VHS for the rest of this year.
I always felt that way about Hunter Pence. Like the way he throws, he looks like he's from like an old movie from 100 years ago. Like if you put him in that like flickery, like black and white sepia tone sort of thing, it would look very much like he should be in the Field of Dreams game. He looks like he came out of the. He looks like he just emerged from the corn.
Yeah, he looks like an actor who fudged on their resume that's like extra skills baseball, where it's like, yeah, you played little league. It looks like he's throwing and swinging in a way like before we had coaches, where it's just like
when their gloves were still, they just look like actual like gloves you'd wear in the winter. Like
oh yeah, an isotoner just out there in the field. Yeah. So and it's fun that the A's have slumped a little lately, but Chafin gets to play on a team that's still trying to get to the playoffs. Is cool for him. And Greg Dykman, so that's an outfield prospect. He'll be up pretty soon. And I think you're looking for a solid basement for him as like a platoon bat, like a corner outfield, hits against righties in a platoon.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's that. And Craig Kimbrell, now you're starting to dream on getting a pretty big prospect for Craig Kimbrell,
and hopefully a prospect who is older than 17. Like I would love to see the Cubs get a prospect who is like on the cusp of the major leagues and could make an impact like next year. In a
year or two. And as far as the teams that Kris Bryant's been most heavily rumored to, you've got the Mets farm system with who they're giving up doesn't excite me as much. But Tampa Bay's been very interested in Kris Bryant. That's a really deep system. You can get excited for like 10 through 50, like the top 10, top 15 prospects they have over there. I still don't want it for Bryant.
At least we could see him, or I could see him if he's in New York. We can go say hi to him. If he's in Tampa, my sister lives in the Tampa area.
There you go.
I'll make it work. I would wear a blue Cubs Bryant jersey to a Mets game to support Kris Bryant.
Yeah, I would too. Hopefully it doesn't come to such things. But yeah, and then half the teams in the league want Craig Kimbrell. So these are all. In some sense, even though this is emotionally destructive, I guess this is it's exciting in a different way than it's been as a Cubs fan for the last few years. It's a change. So we're going to see something happen in the next couple of days. So, I'm definitely not like I wasn't checking Twitter enough in my life, but I'm checking it more now with excitement or curiosity, whatever it is. So, yeah.
Yeah, I just don't. We've talked about this a lot, but I don't think that this Cubs team, especially with the kind of money they have, should be entering a full rebuild. There's no reason for it. So, like, I would be totally fine with, when the Yankees traded Chapman, they re-signed him, and they traded him knowing what his value was and knowing that they still wanted to compete the following year. And I would be fine with that scenario if ultimately the Cubs have already dealt Peterson and Chafin. They deal Kimbrell, hopefully get a great return. They deal maybe even like a Zach Davies or some other person who like might get you a couple prospects or someone who's like a bench player, something like that. And then either try to re-sign one of the three of Bryant, Baez, and Rizzo like during the season and at least attempt to re-sign them after the season. And if they don't, they don't. And then spend some fucking money. Spend some
fucking money. Spend some fucking money. And that's another thing is I think people think about the core three there as like, well, how could the Cubs possibly afford him? They're making good money now. Like Kris Bryant's making $20 million now. So it's not like this is this, and yeah, he's going to get paid more than that on the next deal. But we're not talking about things that even are pushing the Cubs over what the luxury tax, what the CBT threshold is. So yeah, and when we're shouting spend some fucking money, that's not just because that's not us being like Ricketts never spend. They've spent some years.
Right.
It's time to spend again. They have not spent new money in a while.
Is that an obvious shirt yet? Spend some fucking money.
Spend some fucking money. Yeah. They bleep it out, right? They do the drop some asterisks in there. Yeah, and as long as that happens this offseason, then you can make me kind of okay with almost whatever the trade is, whatever the trade scenario is here at the deadline, as long as you are spending the money to reload a full contender who's going for the division next year. And that's what needs to happen. And unfortunately, for the people as impatient as I am certainly about this, we won't know the answer of whether they did it right or not, or whether they even did it reasonably right until we're deep into this next offseason.
Right.
And I think you mentioning Zach Davies as a piece there too. Ryan Tepera is another one. If Chafin got us a couple prospects, Tepera, Davies
to the White Sox, maybe. Sounds like.
Right. It's been rumored that way. So I think Davies and Tepera are two other names to watch that can get you something. And then you're beefing up that like the top 10, even if it's not like you're a new number one prospect in the system, you're talking about like really having more shots at significant major leaguers and making the Cubs top 15 prospects a much better top 15, even with those pieces. So
yeah, that's my dream scenario. You trade Kimbrell for a huge haul. I'm fine with trading Tepera. I also think you're trading at like peak value for him, and you're getting closer to the vaccinated threshold, which is always
you
good.
are. Yep, that's a swap out.
And Davies, I don't know that you can get a lot for him. I don't think Trevor Williams probably would get much, if anything, at this point.
Trevor's not. Yeah, he had a good start just now, but he's been in and out so much. And Trevor, I think you're just giving Trevor a real run in the rotation the rest of this year to see if you want to keep him via arbitration. For
even like a Marisnik, I feel like Marisnik could get you something.
I don't know why
he's the exact kind of player the Cubs have acquired at this time of year the past few years.
It's a really good call. Marisnik as well. Yeah, who I've loved on the Cubs and is such a perfect fourth and fifth outfielder.
No, I like him a lot, but if you can get something for him,
deal him. Absolutely. You deal him.
I'm all for it. So I obviously the big takeaway here is that like we're not sitting here with rose-colored glasses saying the Cubs should be acquiring people through trades. Like
Yeah, no,
this
that's
team is
yeah,
what it is. They're
right.
not. They're clearly not contending this year.
Hmm.
I still don't think that that means you have to trade everybody away if you're not getting a lot for them.
No, and yeah, I completely agree. That's a good overall thesis of this of where we land at this deadline, I
Yeah.
think.
Give me one like wild prediction of where even not anyone on the Cubs, but just like a player lands, like a Scherzer or something like that. You got any crazy predictions?
I mean, I I don't. Scherzer is a guy who says he won't go to New York, which I respect, even though I love the
Yeah, I love
city.
it.
I
I love it.
like that he's like, fuck that. No, I have feelings about the Mets. I can't do it. So that's great. I absolutely love it. He wants to go to the West Coast, and the uh, crazy. The craziest prediction would be to say the Mariners. I think the Mariners.
Hmm.
I think the Mariners, as far as something to keep an eye on that I haven't really heard rumored. Think about the Mariners for Craig Kimbrell, because what the Mariners have the longest playoff drought in the four
Yeah.
major sports right now. It's
Hmm.
since 2001. The Mariners just dealt former Cubs hero Kendall Graveman. Remember when the Cubs bought low on him, and then he was promising, and then they just
Yeah.
let him go.
Yeah.
Well, Kendall Graveman has been the Seattle Mariners, who've been surprisingly good. They've been the best team in baseball since mid-June.
Yeah.
Weirdly,
I actually I went as you brought it up. I was looking up their record. I did not realize that they had gotten up to 55 and 47.
yeah. So 55 and 47. So how many games are they behind the Astros as we speak?
They are a game behind the A's and seven behind the Astros. So they're certainly in it and very much in it for a wild card.
So their general manager Jerry Dipoto famously is like traded from a hospital bed. He loves making trades,
Hmm.
does it all the time.
Real Jim Hendry signing Ted Lilly move.
Yes, exactly. Oh, I love Ted Lilly. The so the most unexpected thing that's happened thus far during this trade season is that Dipoto just dealt their closer, Kendall Graveman, to the Astros, who they're
Mhm.
chasing. Got Abraham Toro, prospect, under control for a few years for it. And the clubhouse was pissed. They're furious about it because they're contending. They're chasing for a playoff spot here. And you just trade our closer to the team we're chasing. That's
Right.
insane. And it is. And what Dipoto said was he acknowledged this, and he says, he said something to the effect of, in a vacuum, this doesn't make sense. With other moves we plan to make, it will
Okay.
make more sense. So to me, Mariners have a good farm system. They
Hmm.
are going to have a stacked, overloaded outfield for years to come now. And if, I mean, Craig Kimbrell to the Mariners would be under control for this year and next year, and someone from the top end of that Seattle system. You look at their outfielders; they have Mitch Haniger. Obviously, he's a little older, established. You figure he's
He's
hanging
been
around.
great.
He's been great. Kyle Lewis won the Rookie of the Year last
Hmm.
year, and then Rodriguez and Kelnick are two top end, like top 20 prospects in Major League Baseball. That's four outfielders. Could be three spots in a DH. And I would be very surprised if any of those guys came back to the Cubs. But imagine Kimbrell and Tepera for one of them. If they're
Sure.
if they're trying to replace Graveman, that'll be my crazy look out
I
for it,
like
I
it.
suppose.
I like Kimbrel's vibe in Seattle. He already looks kind of grunge. I feel like that fits in with the
Absolutely.
vibe up there.
Oh yeah, Kimbrell's absolutely playing a lazy bass in Soundgarden. I think you could see. What? How about you? Do you have any crazy thoughts? Anything you're just
Hmm.
vibing? Anything you're?
I I'm afraid that Kimbrel ends up on the Dodgers. That's not like a crazy prediction, but it's just like it seems so Dodgers that they would just keep stacking people up. And also, they might be coming into a situation much like the Cubs were in with Zobrist, albeit in a very different circumstance, where like depending on what happens with Trevor Bauer, they may be getting some money back. They already have a lot of money,
Right.
so it would not surprise me at all to see them do something to do their utmost to repeat, especially in a really tough division this year. I don't know if you saw what happened last night, but in a tied game in San Francisco, Cody Bellinger threw the ball about 60 feet over the third baseman's
Yeah,
head
I
against
don't know
Trea
if
Turner.
thoughts and prayers to everyone in San Jose who was endangered by
Whew.
that throw by Cody Bellinger.
No net is high enough to contain that throw.
No, it was awesome. It was there. It's rarely you rarely see a baseball error that is like that makes you laugh out loud immediately, but it was so slapstick and shocking, and the camera angle was good to like capture.
Yeah.
You're just
It
like,
was like that
"Ooh."
Javi one in Milwaukee where it just like slipped out of his hand and he threw it like 100 feet over
Yeah.
Rizzo.
It's what like football players do after scoring a touchdown, like into the crowd, basically,
Yeah.
just whipping it. So yeah, I mean, well, that's the thing too. And I think Kimbrell makes sense at the back of the Dodgers bullpen. And then as you say, Scherzer sort of swapping in for Bauer, and then helping that team sort of get to. I mean, the Dodgers
If
are
the
not.
Dodgers got Scherzer and Kimbrel, it would not surprise me in the least.
Totally. And they have a deep enough farm system to do it. So I think that makes, and the fact that like, as the Giants being as crazy good as they've been, and the Padres, the Dodgers came into the season obviously relatively confident they could avoid the wild card game. You don't feel like that anymore. They have to really race to not be in the wild card game. And if you're in the wild card, who would you want starting more than Max Scherzer? Maybe, I mean, you get Scherzer and Kershaw at the front of that rotation. I mean, would be, and Walker Buehler. Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So Dodgers definitely a big team to watch too. I agree.
Well, shit, man. I feel like by the time we release this 20 minutes from now, there may have been moves that have already happened. So it is possible that we'll jump back on for some sort of emergency pod at some point, and we'll certainly be tweeting a lot about it. But you got anything else?
Well, I mean, just a shout out to our friend Javi Baez for causing some fun this weekend. It was a crazy celebration on the walk off, but they were yapping at each other before the swing too. So I mean, if you're gonna talk it, I'm fine with walking it. I will say he didn't throw the bat at Amir. Anyone who watches the camera, he spiked the bat straight down. But it was fun to see Javi come in and walk off a game dramatically off of his biggest like personal rival.
I feel like Garrett kind of took it as well as someone could take being taunted.
I think, yeah. I mean, he didn't charge at them, which he has done before with the Pirates, obviously.
And what's interesting that I hadn't thought about until right now? I know it wasn't Garrett, it was Chapman at the time. But it's kind of interesting that this era that we think of in Cubs baseball more or less began with that Hendricks start and Rizzo chirping at Chapman. And it may very well end with another chippy Reds moment.
Yeah, right. With a chippy left-handed bullpen guy who throws hard. Yeah, it is a weird way to be the ends of the bell curve on either side of
thoughts and prayers to Nate Shearholtz, whose heart is still racing 7 years
later.
later.
We should get Shearholtz on the pod. I bet we could do it.
What's he doing? He's got zero.
Yeah, ducking stuff, I think. But yeah, we'll after everything goes down, we'll check back in. But follow us at Away Games Pod on Twitter and Instagram, everywhere. And hold on to your wigs and keys, as my old friend David Letterman used to say. It's going to be a weird couple of days, but
or as Samuel L. Jackson famously said in Jurassic Park, hold on to your butts.
Hold on to your butts. You got to get these snakes off my plane. Thanks for listening, everybody. Happy trade deadline.